So welcome to part two. Part two of the motorcycle trip from Pennsylvania to Alaska via the Dalton Highway. Now the Dalton Highway, the rules of the road, first one is big trucks have the right of way. This road was built for big trucks to be able to get supplies and stuff that they needed up to the oil fields and when they were building the Keystone Pipeline as they came down through. Now the Dalton Highway is challenging at times. I had watched a lot of videos on it, and now and then some people were very negative and saying, oh, it's not safe, don't do it. If I would have only watched those videos, I may not have done it. But there were a lot of other people that said, hey, it's a challenge, you need to respect it, but go for it. It's an adventure. So for myself, and for everyone watching this video, my take on it is this. If you are up for an adventure, definitely put it in your schedule and go do it. There's a few things that I'll go over as we go through this video, and this is my take. This has been my experience. That's why I watch a lot of videos, other people, because I like to get their opinions and, their experiences. So there is a wooden bridge at the one part, and, it's seen its better days, put it that way. But you just, again, even though it's a bridge and it's wood, you need to be careful on it, because there were some spots where I was like, wow, there's a pretty good piece of that bridge missing there. But it wasn't too bad. It was fairly dry when I went over that part of it. And there are a few spots on the Dalton Highway that are blacktop, but most of it's dirt. It's over 400 miles of dirt between Fairbanks, where it starts, just north of Fairbanks, all the way to Dead Horse. And it takes its toll on the bike. Boy, it didn't take long for it to make a mess out of my bike. So, which I was prepared for that. And another thing that you want to be careful with is which type of tires you're running. Now, there were touring bikes. I did see a 2020 Harley-Davidson Road Glide, and he had regular street tires. So he really had to take it easy on some parts of the Dalton where it was extremely slippery. But I was running the Trail Max Mission tires, and they're considered more of a 50-50 adventure type tire. Now, some people say it's more of a 60-40, 60 on-road, 40% off-road. But Trail Max Mission, Dunlop will tell you it's more of a 50-50. So take that for, with a grain of salt. But it's a little more aggressive than just your typical street tire. Now, I did learn real quick. They had some rain Sunday night before I got on the Dalton, and soon after I was on the Dalton, within the first about 30 miles, I realized this road is extremely slippery when it's wet. And I had watched a lot of videos, and some people had said, well, it's like riding on ice. And I thought they were exaggerating it. But to be honest with you, it's a lot like riding on ice, because it gets extremely slippery when it's wet. So this isn't to scare you away from doing it, just respect the road if you decide to ride the Dalton Highway. And let me know in the comments if you are, if you have some questions about it, additional questions that I don't answer here in the video, I'm more than happy to chat. So the scenes are just incredible. I mean, there's just some beautiful scenery. However, you do need to pay attention to the road, the Dalton Highway. There were some places where I stood up, because there was a lot of potholes at some places, and I wanted to be able to see as far as possible. I did see some potholes that were as big as, there were some that were 12 or 18 inches round, and they were a foot deep. So you get a tire stuck in one of those, it'll put a hurting on you. But the next stop was going to be a Cold Foot, and that's really one of the only places you can get gas along the Dalton Highway. And at 220 miles, I'm sucking fumes. So I knew I would need gas. It's 250 miles from Cold Foot to Dead Horse, Prudhoe Bay, where I was headed. So Prudhoe Bay was my ultimate destination was to go as far north into the United States on a roadway as possible, and that's Prudhoe Bay. Dead Horse, Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. So I carried extra gas, which I needed. I had 2.6 gallons of extra gas. I had a 1.3 gallon tank extra on either side, and my 5.6 gallon tank of gas and the bike, that got me that 220, but I needed to go a little longer than that because it's 250 from Coldfoot to Prudhoe Bay. So I had to pull over and, top off my tank, use the extra gas. Road conditions were decent at this point, and here's Coldfoot. Yeah, as you can see on the screen, the Dalton Highway even messes up your camera lens. Pennsylvania.
Really? We're from New York, so.
Oh, what part?
Western. Kind of over by like Chicago Lake, Erie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You went in here? Are you guys finished?
We're getting out. Yep.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, they were here first, but I think it was just on the wrong side. So. These are the old style pumps. So you ended up needing to go inside to pay. The card readers weren't working properly on them. And gas wasn't exactly the cheapest. If I remember correctly, it was $7.51 a gallon or something like that. And this was one of the great things about this journey and this adventure is getting to meet different people. This guy on this GS, he had caught up to me at a construction area where we were all stopped, and they were letting the bikes get towards the front. And so I got started chatting with him, and we rode part of the way together.
Yeah, not bad. Yesterday it was messy.
You heading on up to Prudhoe?
Yeah.
Day yet?
Yeah.
You keep going. Are you going on too?
I think it's all, yeah.
Yeah.
Feel about 5:36.
Something like that, I think, yeah. I mean, it's decent traveling, so.
Yeah, I got a room up there.
Okay. You have the big tank on that, don't you?
What's that?
Do you have the big tank on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice.
How many miles are you good for? I do about 350.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good.
How many gallons is that? 6 gallons, man. 6 gallons? Yeah. Okay, can you put the 60 miles a gallon? Yeah. I'm keeping the speed down. I ride Harley-Davidson, and we're only good for a weekend like 40 miles a gallon. So that's still pretty fast. 6 gallon tank gives us about 20.
Yeah, my tank's only 5.6, so that's why I carry extra.
Yeah, we always have to carry extra. We're all, from here up, even if a tank won't take us up, I carry, I got to dump a gallon in. Oh no. We're here. I'll get out of the way. Oh, you're out? Yeah. Well, of course you have to go. Yeah. I have to go and get my card and then pay, but you have to come in anyway, so. Oh, you have to pay inside? Yeah, it doesn't have the reader's not working. Ah, somebody left their cat. Oh well. Have you done this before? What's that? Have you done this before? No. Yeah, me neither. No, first time up. Where are you from? I'm from Kenai. Where's that? Kenai, Alaska, down by... Oh, okay, so you're from Alaska? Yeah, good, good. Well, you got a beautiful state, that's for sure.
So in Coldfoot, they you basically have your travelers and the truck drivers and some locals, a few locals, not very many. But I tell you, these truckers, they deserve a lot of respect, mad respect for these guys. I have a lot of friends that are truck drivers, and I have a respect for all of them, but especially these guys. They take it to a different level running those big rigs on the Dalton Highway. I decided to spend the night in Coldfoot. I got there around 1 or 1:30 in the afternoon, but I decided to spend the night, and I met some great people. Some of these were on bicycles, some were on motorcycles, and we set up our tents and decided to spend the evening there. So we got a bite to eat, and the food was excellent. They have a buffet style, and I loved it. Bite to eat, cup of coffee, and from there, went over, got some sleep. The small tent is the one that's mine. Now, if you look just in the back of the picture there with those white, looks like a bunch of trailers put together, that's actually the motel there. And you can get a room for $250 a night, get a shower for $5. And it doesn't get dark there. So, the next morning, 5:30, I decided to continue heading north. And there is blacktop there for a few miles outside of Coldfoot as you're heading north. But I headed for Dead Horse, Prudhoe Bay. And before you get into Prudhoe Bay, I don't know, it might be 15 miles before or something like that. The road it's blacktop, and it's a very nice road. And so you can cruise along pretty well there. It gets pretty flat. You're out of the mountain range now. There's no, it's a lot flatter, very swampy, a lot of water because you're getting close to the Arctic Ocean. So one of the things here that I didn't mention earlier was the Adigan Pass. I will show a little bit of that, crossing that pass as I head south. But 1 week after I left home, this would have been the following Tuesday, 1 week after I left Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I arrived in Dead Horse, and I got something to eat, filled up with gas, and turned around and started heading south again, heading back towards Coldfoot. I was going to spend the night there again. So when I headed south, soon after I got out of Dead Horse, I saw some guys pulling over in vehicles along the road. Well, here they were hunting caribou, and they were stalking them. And the one guy, well, he got lucky and got one. I also saw a muskox. Now, this picture isn't the best because he was pretty far off, but I pulled over and got the binoculars and was watching it for a little bit, but it was a full-size muskox. Pretty neat to see. So in terms of weather, I had lucked out, and which was great because I'm thinking, man, I'll get back to Coldfoot in pretty decent time. But as I approached Adigan Pass is the highest mountain range on the Dalton Highway, and it's also the steepest grade. And so as I got close to it and approached it, I realized, it's starting to get damp, it's starting to get wet. The very place that I didn't want wet roads on the Dalton Highway was the Adigan Pass. But nothing you can do about the weather, so I took it easy. Going up really wasn't too bad. I just had to keep a steady throttle and, just make sure I wasn't no abrupt input or anything. And I was able to keep the rear tire from cutting loose and everything. So just took it easy. Going up over, it wasn't a real heavy downpour. It was just enough to make it wet and slippery. But I was able to keep the bike upright. Did not have any, didn't dump it at all. There was only one spot, and that had been soon after I got on the Dalton Highway, where I had to put my foot down to keep my bike from going down, because it was just, it was so slick, and I just had to be extremely careful. But as I go over the Attican Pass, this is on the north side. When I started down the other side, down on the south side, it changed. I mean, the weather actually got a little bit better. So as I started to go down over the other side, I wanted to make sure I geared down at the top of the hill so that I didn't have to shift gears, part way down. And I just, was real careful with the brake, no abrupt inputs, just take it easy. So a couple interesting facts about the Attican Pass. It is the highest year-round maintained pass in the state of Alaska. And it marks the continental divide. So it has waters flowing into the Arctic Ocean on one side and the Pacific Ocean on the other side. And yes, there was a little bit of snow up top, not a lot, but a little bit. But as I started down the other side, this would be on the south side, not only did the weather start to change, but the scenery also changes. So the road was still a little damp, so the entire mountain range there had some moisture on it, so I still had to take it a little bit easy, but I did relax a little bit as I started down the other side and realized that, wait, it's not quite as messy and as slippery as I had anticipated when I saw that it was raining on the mountain pass there. Now, one of the things that I did learn in talking to a truck driver that drove truck on the Dalton Highway, they really appreciate if you just give them the entire road. So if you're at the bottom of the pass, you see a truck coming down, just pull over, let them have the whole road. Because it is, especially if it's wet and slippery, because for them, it's their job and they want to try to keep moving, but they also know the dangers of the Dalton Highway and the Attican Pass because of the steep grade, so they need to gear down and as they're coming down over. And he just said they appreciate when people just pull over and give them the whole road. So I was fortunate enough I didn't encounter any trucks while I was going over the pass, so I didn't have anything to worry about. But I kept my eyes open. I figured if I see a truck coming, I'm just going to pull over, give him plenty of room, let him have the whole road. There were a few things that I'll mention now, too, with the bike. The bike ran great, but because of the way the Dalton Highway, the calcium chloride that they use on it, that really gunks up and builds up on your bike. And it was building up on my radiator, so I had to watch my temperature gauge to make sure that the bike wasn't overheating. I did have to pull over a couple of times and clean off the radiator. I had a radiator guard on it, and what I realized was that this crap was building up behind the radiator guard, between the radiator guard and the radiator, and it was actually making things worse. So I took the radiator guard off. That's to protect the stones and stuff from kicking up and messing up the radiator. But I actually took that off, and I carried extra water, and I just squirted a little bit and tried to scrape it off and clean it off as best I could on the roadway alongside the road. And that evening when I got to Coldfoot, there was a couple of GSs, BMW GSs, and there was a KLR. They were all doing the same thing. I mean, we were all trying to clean our radiators and keep them as clean as possible to keep our bikes from overheating. So I also have fender extensions on my bike, and, well, they're all chipped up. I mean, you could see actually my front fender has a crack on both sides from the Dalton Highway. So there's a lot of stuff that, you know, it wasn't, the bike itself ran great, but just because of the Dalton Highway and the type of riding that it is, and what the Dalton Highway, the challenges it presents, it, you know, it beats your bike up a little bit. So, but that's why I bought an adventure touring bike. But as I went down over the pass, got to the south side, you can see where the sun's shining, and it, you know, the scenery really changes because of the dark clouds and as the sun is starting to come out. So there's a couple of pretty sharp turns on the south side before you get to the bottom. Well, in this case, before I got to the bottom. But I did get to one spot. Once I got to the bottom, I turned around and looked back, and wow, it was just unbelievable. There was a double rainbow at the base of it. Now, the picture here doesn't pick it up the best. You can only see one of the rainbows. I tried to mess with the coloring a little bit to see if it doesn't enhance it a little bit more. It was one of those moments, just one of those times where I pulled over and just took in the beauty. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. But I got back to Coldfoot that evening, and that's where I spent that night again. A couple more bikes had pulled in. Now, here you'll see the same, this is the same picture that I had shown earlier with my tent, set it up. Next morning, Wednesday morning, I headed south, and the weather was beautiful. So I headed towards Fairbanks. That night I was planning on staying in Toke, was the plan. So, but I headed towards Fairbanks, stopped a few times to take some pictures. And I did have a time where I had to, I was losing air pressure in my rear tire. Something punctured my rear tire, but I had a plug kit along, so I put a plug in. Not that big a deal. I plugged many tires, motorcycle tires, in addition to four-wheelers, pickup trucks, trailers. But here's the wooden bridge again. Cross back over that. It was a little bit nicer this day than the day before, or a couple of days before. Well, Monday I had headed north, and this was Wednesday heading south. But got back to the sign, the Dalton Highway sign, took a couple of pictures again, and I tell you, it was a feeling of accomplishment. It was something that I've been wanting to do for a lot of years, and to finally have it done, have done it, and realize what the Dalton Highway is, you know, facing the challenges of the highway, the adventure of it, it was incredible. So that concludes part 2 of this journey. Part 3 will take us down through Toke, Whitehorse, down into the lower 48, and towards Sturgis, South Dakota.